Hello, it is Tuesday the 29th of September 2020. I hope you all had a great weekend and that your weeks have started well. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Unfiltered Audio Basement. Unfiltered Audio described the Basement as an innovative new low-frequency enhancement tool designed to rapidly improve the bottom end of your individual tracks, stems, and even entire mixes. It's available via the Plugin Alliance website, where you can download a 14-day fully functional trial for free. It is also currently available at a discounted price. I thought the best way to test out the Basement was to put it on a production that I've just finished for a new track that I've got coming out in the next couple of weeks. The track is called Military Industrial Complex. I've stripped away all the instrument parts, all the vocal effects and sound design, so all that we're left with is the core production, the bass and the drums. Let's start by having a look at the Saturate mode. And I thought a good place to try and use this would be with the bass line in the chorus. Here it is. It's an Omnisphere patch called Bass in Love that I've tweaked a little bit, and it sounds like this. Let's have a listen to it with the Basement on it. The Saturate option is giving it a little bit of flavor, which I like. Staying with the chorus bass, let's have a listen to what the clarity option's doing for it, because I really like this with this chorus bass. Let's start with the clarity option dialed down to 0%, and let's bring it back in and see what it's doing to help the bass. And you can hear it's just helping to define the shifting, modulating kind of sequence bass. You're just getting to hear those details as it moves. It's thinning it out a touch. You do have to be careful with this clarity control. Too much and you'll lose the weight of the bass. But it's really nice on something like this that's moving quickly. It's helping to define those twists and turns. That's very, very nice. There are another two areas that I'd like to talk about whilst we're listening to the chorus bass, and that's the anti-rumble and the shelf option. I'm going to turn them both off, double click to get back to 0. Part of the design of the production for the chorus is that the sequencer bass kind of sits above the low punch of the kick. So it's giving those kind of subby lows to the kick drum. It's not taking them up for itself. Let's drop those drums back in and have a listen to them with the bass. Now let's listen again with the low shelf and the anti-rumble. And you can hear how much more defined the low thump of the kick is. Next up, let's have a listen to the kick from the first verse. You can see here that we're using 3 layers of samples for this kick, each of them at different octaves. And it's our low octave that is giving us all the weight and subby punch of the kick. Let's see what happens when we mute that and try using the Basement instead to create that low punch. Let's have a quick listen to the kick with the low octave drop muted. Now let's drop in the Basement and see what it did for us. And you can hear it's definitely giving us some nice low punch. Let's drop the Basement into bypass. Let's unmute the low sub. Let's have a listen to it with that low sub. Let's mute that. Bring the bass in. Take the bass out. Low sub. Listening as I am now through headphones, I'd say that the Basement gives a little bit more punch. It just feels that a little bit tidier. Listening on my studio monitors, I can hear that there's a lot of sub coming through with that low octave. But whether you want that low sub or not is going to depend very much on what you want from your kick drum. Let's have a quick look at how the shelf and the anti-rumble can be used together in an interesting way. You'll see here that what I've done is I've actually boosted the shelf by 2.1 dB. That's because I didn't feel like I was getting as much sub from the basement as I was getting from the low sub drop. So I wanted to get somewhere close, but I didn't want it going all the way down into the bass, like all the way down into the absolute sort of 20 hertz and all of that. So I used the anti-rumble to clean it up. Let's take them both off and have a quick listen without them. I'll then bring in the shelf and then I'll bring in the anti-rumble so you can hear how the two are balancing off against each other. That is a very nice trick. I like that a lot. This production has a second bass line in it. It's a 909 hip-hop bass, and again, it's an atmosphere patch. Let's have a quick listen to it. I'm already using Waves Submarine to add some additional bass to this track. Let's have a listen to what that sounds like. It's doing a pretty solid job of adding some tight low end to the bass. Let's bypass the Submarine and drop the bass mint on and see how it compares to what the Submarine was doing. I have to say I do like that. There's something a little bit tidier about it. One of the things that I prefer about the bass mint by comparison to the Waves Submarine is the soften option. Let's have a listen again with the soften option set at 0, and I'll blend it back into the bass so you can hear what I'm talking about. That really suits that. That is very, very good for that type of bass line. We actually have two bass lines running at this point in the production. We have the hip-hop bass, and we also have the bass in love bass that you've already heard from the chorus. Let's listen to the two basses together, and you'll hear that at this part of the production, the bass in love bass is heavily filtered by FabFilter Volcano 2. Let's drop the bass mint onto the filtered bass using the Overfold mode and see what it does for it. That is definitely adding some interesting texture to it. I'm not sure entirely that I would love it in the full production or not. Right now it sounds a little bit too spicy, but with all the other instrumentation in there as well, it may help the bass stand out. It might prove to be a bit too much. Let's just quickly take a moment to compare the mid-only and the mono bass options. Let's start with them both off and have a listen to that bass line again. Let's drop the mid-only option. It's a little thin. So let's go for mono instead. What I like about what the mono bass is doing for us there is it's helping to contrast the bass in love filtered riff with that hip-hop bass. So the hip-hop bass is wider, and the mono bass option is just centering the sequencer bass, the bass in love bass, and sending it straight down the center. Let's go back to the hip-hop bass, and in this part of the production, we're blending in Soundtoys Filter Freak. We're using a wet-dry mix to blend in the Filter Freak. Let's drop the basement in on the resonate function and see what that does for it. Definitely introducing some interesting texture. And the resonate is just helping to lift up that kind of grungy filter freak kind of effect, make it sound a little bit more pop, a little bit more high fidelity. Let's go back to our chorus bass, the sequencer bass, Bass in Love, and you'll notice that we have a second version of it running simultaneously. And what that is it's the same thing but an octave up. And it just helps me get that little bit of a top on the bass line. Let's have a listen to the Bass in Love without that octave top. Now let's drop the bass mid on with the octave mode engaged. And you can hear immediately we've got a nice top on that bass. It's sitting much more kind of up in the mix. It's going to make it much easier for us to sit it in a busy production. Let's just do a quick compare and contrast with the bass mint and the upper octave. So let's start with the bass mint in bypass and let's bring that extra octave back in. Let's mute that. Drop in the bit. Let's go back. Now, to my ears, I will say that I think with the bass up option, it sounds a little bit more analog and old school to me. But the basement gives it this great kind of electro, kind of Tron kind of vibe. It's very tight. It's got this really kind of spicy sound to it. Depending on the flavor you're going for, this is a great option to have. The Unfiltered Audio Basement is a really well thought out plugin with a comprehensive set of tools to shape and tone the low frequencies. Particular highlights for me, the soften option was great on that hip hop bass of bringing in texture, and the clarity option, if used just a little, really helped draw out the details on that sequencer bass. The Unfiltered Audio Basement is great for producers and music makers looking to get that modern sound where it's not just enough to get a tight, low frequency. It's also about being able to add some texture and some flavor to what you're doing. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And remember that my new release, Military Industrial Complex, is going to be out real soon. It would mean the world to me if you could take the time to check it out and have a listen. I'd love to know what you think of it. Let me know in the comments on YouTube videos or via socials. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tobisonics. And until next Tuesday, good night and good noise. Stay safe and stay healthy.